This is another video where I make book recommendations based off of a musical, and this time it's Heathers the Musical. Heathers is my second favorite musical. My first is In the Heights by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Heathers the Musical is based off the satirical cult classic movie from the 80s. The musical, in my opinion, is like 500% better than the movie. The characters are more fleshed out, they have more depth. The satire and meaning of the story is more prominent and emphasized in the musical than it is in the movie. In this high school, there's a trio of girls, all named Heather, and they're the top bitches of the school. Veronica Sawyer is the main character, and she strikes a deal with the Heathers. She's excellent at forgeries and is willing to fake signatures for the Heathers if they will let her sit at their table once so that people will see her with the Heathers and they will have respect for her and leave her alone. However, they take it a step further and they actually take Veronica in and give her sort of a makeover. The more Veronica hangs out with the Heathers, the more she loses herself. And as she starts hanging out with this new kid who's super mysterious named JD, they accidentally murder a Heather. And then things escalate from there. Like I said, this is a satire, and considering the sensitive topics and controversial issues that it discusses, I think it did a good job. It explores the hellhole that is high school, albeit slightly exaggerated. The bullying, the hard expectations that you feel when you're in high school, suicide, and its toxic, romanticized perspective and how people profit off of people's suicide to gain attention. There is a lot to analyze in this musical. I personally love doing it, and I think overall the scriptwriters did a really good job with it. Of course, there are some outliers in the fan base that sort of give Heathers a bad perspective, bad reputation. People tend to romanticize the abusive relationship between JD and Veronica. In addition, some people don't see the meaning of the story. There's a lot of triggers in Heathers the Musical. Fat phobia, homophobia, bulimia, sexual assault, bombs and gun violence, abusive relationships, specifically with manipulation and lying, death, suicide attempts, and probably some more. Alright, so now on to book recommendations. Ooh, this lighting is odd. So instead of doing a book that matches the poster for Heathers, I figured that it'd be cool if I did a book for each color of Heather. If you don't know, each Heather has like an iconic outfit and they're all one color. There's Heather Chandler, she wears red. Heather Duke, she wears green. Heather McNamara, she wears yellow. And Veronica wears blue. Heather Chandler, or as I like to call her, Red Heather. The book I chose for this is Certain Dark Things. Hear me out, okay? This is not a stereotypical YA vampire novel. It's set in Mexico City, in this alternate universe where vampires have been living in our society since the 1970s. Domingo is this garbage collecting kid who's just trying to survive, and one day he bumps into Atol, a Aztec vampire. Atol comes from a big powerful family of vampires, but something happened and everyone she knows is dead, and she's trying to survive and escape to South America to hide from the rival vampire gang that's hunting her down. I gave this book 3 stars. Because there's still a lot of stereotypes and predictability in the story writing. Despite giving it 3 stars, I still recommend this book because what really stood out to me in this novel is that vampires have been around for years and have integrated in our society, and that gave the author the opportunity to do a lot of world building and write a lot of vampire lore and about their cultures. And I think it really separated itself and reshaped the vampire genre. There's romance in this book, and at first I was very annoyed. I was very annoyed until a certain point of the book, but I ended up being okay with it because the romance between Domingo and Atoll was actually handled in a very realistic way, and I really appreciated and loved the fact that the author took into consideration human emotions, prioritizing oneself over their partner or a romantic interest. And, you know, I was like, okay, this is realistic. I like that. Green Heather, which is Heather Duke, and also they're Asian, so that's great. Heather Duke did not get a solo though. I'm a little salty about that. The book I have chosen for Heather Duke is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This book is adult fantasy. Adult fantasy is really great, and I'm tired of YA fantasy. Since this is fantasy, I can't necessarily say that the characters' ethnicities are Asian, but it is inspired by East Asian culture, from what I've heard anyways, so don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. But it is written by an Asian, so, you know, that's great. Read more books by Asian authors, please. I think since I haven't read this, it's best for me to literally read out the synopsis instead of me trying to paraphrase it because I have no idea what I'm talking about. Jade is the lifeblood of the island Kekon. It has been mined, traded, stolen, and killed for. And for centuries, honorable green-bone warriors like the Call family have used it to enhance their magical abilities and defend the island from foreign invasion. Now the war is over, and a new generation of Calls vies for the control of Kekon's bustling capital city. They care about nothing but protecting their own, cornering the jade market, and defending the districts under their protection. Ancient tradition has little place in this rapidly changing nation. When a powerful new drug emerges that lets anyone, even foreigners, wield jade, the simmering tension between the Calls and the rival Ayat family erupts into open violence. The outcome of this clan war will determine the fate of all Greenbones, from their grandest patriarch to the lowest motorcycle runner on the streets, and of Kekon itself. So yeah, Jade City, East Asian inspired adult fantasy, written by an Asian author with magic and kung fu and queer rep. I am super hyped to read it because I've heard so many good things about it. Yellow Heather, Heather McNamara. This Heather, Yellow Heather, has a solo and it's one of my favorite songs. So yeah, the book I chose for Heather is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Yes, I rated it 3 stars, but I still like it and I still would recommend it. So I can't help but compare and parallel similarities to Priory and the HBO series Game of Thrones. So just giving y'all a warning because I compare it a lot. Similar to Game of Thrones, you follow various different POVs all scattered throughout the world, but they all eventually intertwine together. Also, side note, worms are kind of like dragons. I mean, if you look at the specifics, and there's a lot of differences, but I'm just letting you know, if you've never heard of the word worm, WYRMS, it is like a dragon. I don't want to spend too long talking about Priory, so I will try to simplify this. There's 6 main characters. Nicholas, he is an alchemist who has told Queen Sabran that he can make an elixir of immortality, but has failed to do so, and now he's been spending a few years as an exile on an island. The next character, Queen Sabran, who comes from a long line of queens. The queendom is heavy on religious culture. They believe the bloodline of queens have the power to protect their world from worms. Eid is an outsider who is working undercover to protect Queen Sabran with magic that is forbidden in Sabran's queendom. Loth is another character, and he's friends with Queen Sabran, and he is sent away to a country that most people avoid because they worship worms. It is believed that most of them are diseased because the worms roam freely. Tane is someone who has been training to be a dragon rider all her life, and one night she makes a choice that could have that stripped from her and have her severely punished. And after all that stuff, There's also the rise of worms that were once defeated centuries ago. There's a lot of lore, and there's a lot of religion and a lot of tension and politics between religions, history and tension between different kingdoms or queendoms, different ruled areas. Okay, well, I don't mean to be a downer, but I feel like because I brought up that I gave it 3 stars, I'm kind of like expected to explain in this video why I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, if you read my Goodreads review, this is gonna be kind of repetitive, and I'm sorry about that. I liked that parts of the story where characters were traveling between places was skimmed over. To me, the whole traveling part of stories is kind of boring and kind of feels like a filler. It's unnecessary. So in the beginning, like, it worked for my benefit, but as the story went on, there were too many conveniences and coincidences when characters would travel places and like get there on time, find people, and it just felt like it was done for the sake of quickly getting through the story, and especially towards the end of the book, it kind of just didn't work for me because tensions were high and it was just like working out perfectly. Yeah. Speaking of tension and high stakes and whatnot, I greatly disliked the last 200 pages of this book. If you had a problem with Game of Thrones and their storytelling in the last 2 seasons and the use of Deus Ex Machina in the last season, get ready for disappointment because it's gonna happen again in Priory of the Orange Tree. I'm not gonna go in detail because spoilers, but when you build up your story to create a high-stakes situation, the risk and harm that your characters and the army of people supporting and fighting alongside them should receive an equal amount of failure and loss. You know what I mean? And Priory didn't do that. Priory didn't do that. So, yeah, that's my problem with it. It's just, oh my god. I'm not gonna go on a Game of Thrones rant. I am not going to go on a Game of Thrones rant. Oh my god, okay. There is queer rep in Priory of the Orange Tree. There's queer romance between 2 women-aligned characters, and there's also a very sad and lonely queer character, and all 3 are main characters. So, a book about suicide, because suicide is a very strong theme in Heathers the Musical. The book I chose is More Than This, and in the video prior to this one, I said that I didn't want to talk too much about the plot because I think that it's best to get into the book without really knowing what it's about. And I still stand by that statement, but I'm gonna talk about it a little more in this video. More Than This is a story about this kid who drowns and dies, yet wakes up in his childhood neighborhood naked, and the place is completely deserted. Mystery is a huge part of this book, and that's why I don't like talking about the synopsis, because I want that mystery aspect to stay. I don't want you to like know what's gonna happen. I want you to go into this novel and not know anything about it. I really liked the pacing of this book. I admit that the beginning is very slow and I was like kinda wanting to stop reading it, but my friend Laura recommended it and I trust Laura, so I pushed through. Aside from the very slow beginning, I think that the tension and mystery is evenly placed throughout the story, and that the author successfully, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like the tension gradually and perfectly escalates until the climax of the story. I was really surprised by this story. It's really not what you think it's gonna be about, and the author cleverly incorporates the genre of science fiction into the storytelling and how they tackled the issue of suicide and just the human emotion of being so heartbroken and feeling so hopeless, and what we're willing to do to make ourselves feel safe and okay again. It's just Wow, this book. A lot of things in this book was just so brilliant and creative, and it's not predictable at all, and I really liked it. If you've read More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, the level of mind-blowing stuff that happened in that book parallels to More Than This, and they're both sad and queer, so there's that. Even though I didn't talk about this book for too long, I feel like it was too spoilery, and I'm really sorry if it takes away the shock and mystery from your reading experience, but I don't know, I hope it's still a good book for you. Alright, the last book is a book set in high school. I love this book. It's called Tamen de Gushi, and I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but it's called Their Story in English. This is not Japanese, and I really want to emphasize that it's not Japanese. People tend to like make assumptions that if it's East Asian work, it's immediately Japanese, and I'm like, there's other countries that do stuff too, you know? So yeah, it's not Japanese, it's Chinese. Tamen de Gushi is this Chinese manhwa about two women-aligned characters that are dating. Tamen de Gushi is not eerie, it is not fetishized, it is not rape, there is no perverted stereotypical characters, and it's not queerbait. It's legitimate queer romance, and it's great. This is sort of not related, sort of related, but I'm gonna say it. Because of what's associated with yaoi and yuri, I really encourage everyone to not call non-problematic East Asian work that is queer, yaoi, and yuri, just because I think that it's important to start separating good queer representation from its fetishized toxic material that falls under the yaoi and yuri genre. So yeah, please don't call this yuri, because I don't want good queer rep to be grouped together with really toxic material. Tamen de Gushi follows these two high schoolers, Sunjing and Chu Tong. They don't attend the same high school, so when Sunjing first sees Chu Tong, it's sort of a challenge for her to like find her and get to know her, but like once they do meet each other and start becoming friends, this romance starts blooming, and then they're so adorable together. Tamen de Gushi is like the definition of soft romance. Tamen de Gushi is an ongoing series, and each issue or chapter, I'm not sure what it's called, it's posted like periodically, but like honestly, since I have to wait for someone to translate it because I don't think there's an official English translation for the series, it's kind of just like updated randomly. I'm like constantly starving for content for the series because there's not enough. Straight up, there's not a lot of character depth or character development, and it's certainly not story driven. It's just like, if you ever want a quick read, or if you want to read for like 10 minutes and feel content, this is for you. It's honestly just fun, stupid shit that happens between these characters, and it's fun to read about the relationships that everybody have, both platonic and romantic, and you know, it's just cute seeing them have fun and be adorable, and I love them. Yeah, so this is Tamen de Gushi is sort of like the equivalent of when you want to chill and watch We Bare Bears, which literally has no story or character development at all. Also, the author Tan Chao, I'm sorry, that probably sounded really bad, but they're friends with the author for 19 Days, which is another Chinese manhwa that I like that is also queer, so you know, check that one out too. Alright, well, I'm done with the video now. I know I'm supposed to end all my videos with me raving about something, but I don't. Okay, The Brokeback Mountain soundtrack is really good. The composer is Gustavo Santaolalla. I'm really not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm trying to imitate what I found from Google search. But anyway, Gustavo, great composer. They also did The Last of Us, the game, and yeah, it's what a great soundtrack. I've been, oh my god, I can't stop listening to it. Like, I have a playlist and I put the songs, it's only 6 songs and they're not that long, and I put all 6 songs on this playlist like 6 times and I just listen to it on repeat, and I'm just like, wow, there's only 6 songs. Why couldn't you just make more? Anyway, the soundtrack for Brokeback Mountain is really good. Brokeback, what a great movie. Great movie. Great movie. Y'all need to watch it. Watch it and analyze it. Great movie. Okay, I'm not sure where I'm gonna end it now because I'm just blabbering.